Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're jumping straight into the key global headlines from Monday, April 21st, 2025.
Yeah, trying to pull out the really important insights. What's really driving things?
Exactly. We've looked at sources covering U.S. politics, Europe's challenges, and some big global movements.
It's all about understanding these shifts, right? The power dynamics.
Definitely.
So let's start stateside. The U.S. election season is, well, it's really ramping up.
You've got Biden focusing on that global leadership role.
Right. And then Trump holding rallies, presenting a, let's say, different path.
And this is happening while Congress is kind of split,
Right.
especially on aid, like for Ukraine and Taiwan.
That division is pretty clear, and it feels like some of that global tension is spilling over domestically.
You mean the campus protests about Gaza?
Yeah, exactly. It shows how international policy hits home,
It really does. It's maybe a sign of friction between traditional foreign policy and how younger people see the world now. Very connected. That's an interesting point, how public feeling might steer diplomacy down the line.
Could be. Definitely something to watch.
Okay, let's shift over to Europe. Seems like there are quite a few pressure points.
For sure. Look at France. Macron's dealing with those big farmer protests.
Yeah, that touches on some deep economic nerves in the EU farm sector, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And then you've got Germany.
Right, Chancellor Scholz. The
Yeah.
coalition seems a bit unsteady.
Unsteady, yeah. And you're seeing a rise in support for the far right there, too, just before the EU elections.
That could really change the political map in Germany, and maybe Europe more broadly.
It could. But, despite these internal issues, the EU is still largely holding the line on supporting Ukraine.
True, there's a degree of unity there against, well, external threats.
But the strains are real. Rising costs, migration. It's testing that unity.
No doubt, especially heading into elections.
Okay, so widening the lens now. The global picture.
The Middle East situation remains incredibly tense. Gaza ceasefire talks are still not moving forward.
Which is deeply worrying, obviously. Huge humanitarian impact.
Absolutely. And elsewhere, we're keeping an eye on South Africa. Big election coming up.
That could be really significant for the region, maybe even beyond. Political shifts there often have wider ripples.
Good point. It's a key nation.
And political transitions globally seem to be a theme right now.
It does feel that way. In Asia, too, things are shifting.
You mean the China-Philippines situation?
Yeah.
And the South China Sea?
Yeah, those clashes. It just adds more complexity to security in that region. Old disputes flaring up again.
Mm-hmm. And everyone's watching India's elections too, of course?
Given its economic weight and, growing influence globally, that's a huge one.
Definitely. And another major piece here is how alliances are sort of reforming.
You're talking about Russia.
Yeah, Russia deepening ties with China and with Iran.
That seems like a very clear sign of, well, strategic realignment, doesn't it?
Absolutely. A countermove, perhaps, to perceived pressure from the West. It's reshaping the global balance.
So if we try and, tie all these threads together, what's the big takeaway?
I think it's just a picture of really rapid change, a shifting global landscape.
Old alliances being questioned, leaders facing new kinds of challenges.
And public opinion, like we saw with the protests, playing a much bigger role.
Yeah, it feels like we're in a period of major global adjustment, maybe realignment.
I'd agree with that. The old order is definitely being tested, and new dynamics are emerging fast.
So perhaps the final thought for our listeners. How might these big interconnected shifts, even if they seem far away?
How might they touch their own work? Or their interests?
Exactly. What are the real forces driving these changes in global power? Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.